What's going on, No Horsing Around family? Back at it again for week 5. Preview the Baltimore Ravens, Indianapolis Colts under the lights. You know, we got to do it big. We weren't going to just do a regular podcast. That's why I wanted to get the best from the Ravens camp out there. Everybody's seen him out there on YouTube, IngravenVids. You can check him out on Twitter. Dude's super cool, super knowledgeable. Yeah, and we're gonna keep it clean. That's what you say, right? We're gonna keep this one clean, and we're just gonna dive right in here, man. We just go right at it.
Right.
I watched your YouTube video a second ago before we got on here. I just want your thoughts on the Vic Fangio thing at the end of the game. Kind of crazy we're still talking about it, but it's interesting, right? Like, it's a very interesting thing.
It's a lot of hypocritical talk from Vic Fangio, because he was saying that he didn't like what the Ravens did. The Ravens were obviously going for the record. They got an opportunity to go for the record, and they went for it and they got it. But he was saying that he didn't like it. He did say that he expected it from them because of how the Ravens get down and whatnot. But just last year, there was a game where the game was over. The Broncos were up. It was fourth quarter, and it was like, I think 8 or 10 seconds left. There's a tiny amount of time left in the fourth quarter. And the Broncos, they threw the ball on a fourth down. They were up. The game was over, and they were trying to run out the clock, but they threw the ball. So that the whole him talking about the Ravens feel like player safety is secondary. It's like you literally just you did something that was on the same level, but actually it was worse because you weren't even going for a record. You were just trying to run out the clock, and you could have taken a knee or whatnot, but you didn't.
Yeah.
So it was just, like I said, a lot of hypocritical talk there. And even during the game too, his players, they were taking cheap shots at Lamar. They were taking extra late hits at Lamar. So again, he stressed that the Ravens, they consider player safety secondary, but his players were doing the same thing, actually, if not worse. So
they could have stopped them too, right? Like they could have stopped them if they wanted to. Like
exactly. Yeah, that's the biggest thing right there. If
you always got a choice in football,
right? If it was that bad, you should have had your defense stop it. I mean, they were doing a good job against the run now throughout the game, because the Ravens took everything for them to get over 100 yards. But yeah, your defense, they could have stopped them on that last play, but they didn't. So it is what it is. And another thing too, what makes that last play even worse, that and the fact that the defense didn't stop him, was because normally at the end of a game, that the offense will, especially given the situation, because it was 23-7, with the score the way it was, the offense normally would have took a knee. They would have taken a knee, but they didn't. They didn't line up like they were going to take a knee. They didn't line up in the victory formation and then change the play to that running play. No, they lined up with that running play set already, like they were going to do it. They didn't try to hide it. They didn't try to like disguise it or anything. That they came out like that. So your defense could have noticed that and been like, "Oh, they're getting ready to run," and then try to stop it, but they didn't. So it is what it is.
Yeah. I think you called him Vic Angrio or something like that. I thought, man, that is so funny. Had me laughing, and I love that. Hey, I got a question for you, because I just want your perspective. Indianapolis Colts, we all know our story over here in Indy. We just kind of moved in the middle of the night all the way to Indianapolis. Is there some true hate from the Baltimore Ravens fan base towards the Colts, or is that just a little bit more media driven? I don't feel like it's like the way that Baltimore, hates teams in the North, their own division. I don't feel like they hate people like that much. Is that a little bit of a misconception?
It definitely is now. Like if it was back when it first happened, then yeah, but now it's died down. The Ravens have won their championship. The Colts have won their championship. So no, that's not necessarily dead and gone, because you always do have some fans that still like hold it in their heart. But for the most part, like nobody even talks about it much anymore. It is obviously historic, and it will forever be a part of Ravens, Colts, Baltimore, Indianapolis history. But it's right now, it's not like that ill will that the media tries to make it be some of the time. But at the same time, for me personally, I do remember back when Peyton Manning used to play for the Colts. I not as a person, obviously nothing personal, but as a player, I
Yeah.
hated Peyton Manning.
Yeah.
I could not stand him for nothing. Only reason was because my Ravens they just could not beat this guy, man. They
I
could
know.
not beat him. Every time we played the Colts, man, it would be a close game usually. It would be a defensive battle, and then Peyton Manning would just do something, and he would call it all these audibles and stuff, and then catch us slipping and come away with the win. Like even in the year the Ravens win, I think 13-3 with Steve McNair.
Yeah.
Feeling high and mighty, like okay, we in the playoffs, we about to do this thing.
Yeah.
And
Next
yeah,
thing you know, one of my favorite memories from the Ravens and the Colts back in the Peyton Manning era was when they played in the playoffs, and the Ravens had such good defenses, right? And we won a game where we didn't score a touchdown. We kicked 5 field goals in that game and still beat the Ravens. And I thought, my God, man, how do you ultimate respect for Ray Lewis, man? That dude is just and listening to Peyton kind of conversations, after he's retired, he's always said Ray Lewis is just, he had him figured out. He would always do something crazy. Hopping into the game, we're on polar opposites. You're 3-1, we're 1-3. Just tell me overall how you feel about your team right now. Like, do you feel like you have a good team that's going to make the playoffs? Do you feel like you have a team that's going to actually make a run this year? What's your vantage point?
The way I feel about the Ravens right now is they're a good team, not a great team, but I feel like they have the ability to be great. Reason I say that is because of what they've shown us through these first 4 weeks, despite having so many people on injury reserve and just so many people just missing MIA and out and hurt. Against the Raiders, that game lost in overtime, and I think that defense was just gassed. But Lamar Jackson did put them in a position to win the game. He scored the go-ahead points. He led a game-winning drive. Well, it could have been a game-winning drive, and left 32 seconds left. And all the defense had to do was stop Derek Carr and the Raiders. Don't let them get a field goal. They didn't have any timeouts left. That's all you got to do, defense. Just hold them down. That's it. But we know what happened. And then to be able to beat the Chiefs. The Chiefs, we just have not been able to beat the Chiefs in what seems like forever, ever since Patrick Mahomes taking over. The Ravens just always end up coming up short versus the Chiefs. But for the Ravens to actually have beaten the Chiefs, and again, with all these players hurt, that just spoke volumes to me. And then the Lions game. Now, the Lions were an 0-2 team at the time, but they fought. Ravens did leave a lot of points on the board, but the Lions, just like the Broncos, their run defense was great against the Ravens on that Sunday. But for the Ravens to pull it out the way that they did, and to be able to overcome all the mistakes that they made and still be able to win the game on that crazy 66-yard field goal, that was just wild. And then going against that Broncos defense. Now, they did lose Teddy Bridgewater during the game, so I know that changed a lot. But that defense is still that defense. And they are, despite going against the Giants, the Jets, and the Jaguars, the fact that those are still NFL teams, those are still NFL players, and the fact that that defense really held those teams down, and with the Jets, they held them out. That says a lot about that defense. And they have some really good corners, great safeties. Simmons and Stearns, great safeties. But the Ravens were able to air it out on them. So the way that I feel about this team now is that they are good. They're really good, especially considering their situation with everybody hurt. But if they just clean up some mistakes and stop leaving so many points on the field, then they can be great. And something else that's very interesting and very encouraging is that our first-round draft pick, Rashad Bateman, it's looking like he's going to be coming back this week. And also our third-round pick from 2019, Miles Boykin, another wide receiver, it's looking like he's probably going to come back this week as well. And then we got some other guys that'll be coming back over time. So the Ravens, we will never be at full strength this season, but the fact that they're still playing the way that they've been playing, not even close to full strength, it says a lot about them, and it says a lot to me about them in the shape that they're in.
What do you say about, I mean, Lamar Jackson has always been labeled as, a run first guy that can't use his arm. What would you say to people that say that about the Baltimore Ravens? Because what I've noticed this year from him is him really being able to diagnose plays pretty well. And he has used his arm. I think people have this misconception because he's so electric. Like, he is the most electric quarterback in the NFL when he's using his legs. I don't think we appreciate Lamar's, he's grown every year, year over year over year, to become a better pass thrower in the NFL. And you got to have people to throw the football to, right? Yeah, you got Hollywood Brown, who I feel like is not just a deep threat now. I feel like he's starting to catch the ball on some of those other underneath routes, those intermediate routes as well. Nice to see a guy who's actually taken coaching and grown from that. He seems to be catching with his hands now. He's not all those body catches from Hollywood Brown anymore. But what would you say about Lamar Jackson as a pass thrower right now as we're going into this week?
He's definitely been showing people that he can throw the ball. This is something that a lot of Ravens fans, we had known already. But with the media, a lot of times they tend to push certain agendas and whatnot, and certain narratives and whatnot. And since a lot of people obviously watch ESPN, NFL Network, and all that stuff, which is great, but just because it's on TV, it doesn't mean that it's correct. Just because it's on TV, it doesn't mean that it's right. And just because it's on TV, it doesn't mean that it's accurate. So with Lamar Jackson, a lot of these analysts and experts and whatnot, they say, oh, he can't throw. A lot of people say, oh, he's a run-first quarterback. But a lot of them, what they do is just look at a stat sheet without watching the actual games. And sometimes when you look at a stat sheet, you could think like, oh man, Lamar Jackson got all these rushing yards. Oh man, like there was one point, I'm not sure where he's at right now, but there was one point where he was the number 5 leading rusher in the NFL this season. So like I said, I'm not sure where he's at right now, but I'm sure he's still probably top 10. But so you can look at the stats and be like, oh man, all he does is run. He runs. But if you actually watch the games, you see that he's airing that ball out. And Lamar Jackson, I'm pretty sure, I'm like 99.99% sure that right now he's actually leading the league in his pass attempt, how far his pass attempts are. So I got to double check on that, but I'm like 99% sure that he's leading the league in that. So these last 2 games for sure, I feel like for anybody that's gotten a chance to watch them, they have really shown like, hey, this is a different Ravens team. If you stop the run, which these last 2 teams, the Lions and the Broncos, they sold out to stop the run, and they did a great job. The Lions did a good job, and the Denver Broncos did even better to stop the run. But Lamar Jackson was able to show, like, hey, we can do this thing through the air too. So he's just been putting people on notice. So hopefully that continues.
Absolutely, man. So I don't know if you've had a chance to watch the Colts play this year. If you have, I'm sorry. I apologize. It's not been a great year, man. I mean, I feel like we're this year's like San Francisco 49ers. Like, we just have had injuries all up and down that team. Not trying to make excuses, but we just haven't been able to string it together. But if you have had a chance to watch the Colts, have you seen anything about the Colts that makes you think we're probably going to game plan this way for the Colts this week, and we're probably going to play this style of football against the Colts this week to get that Monday night victory?
See, I haven't gotten to watch them very much, but I have kept up with them a little bit here and there. And I do remember, like, a little bit before the season, it was almost a question whether or not Carson Wentz was even going to be playing in this game, if he was going to be back by this game.
Yeah,
because he had the foot injury, I believe.
Yes.
And then I think Quentin Nelson, he had that same foot injury. Like they had it around the same time, but then they both came back to, I think, like the same practice. And they've obviously been playing. But well, for the most part. But with one thing that I am, even though I haven't gotten to watch the Colts, one thing that I was very, very glad about. I was glad that they won this past Sunday against the Dolphins. Yeah. I know Jacoby Brissett, I know he really wanted to stick it to the Colts, but yeah, it didn't end up happening. But I was glad that the Colts won that first game against the Dolphins. Reason being, because if they came into this game sitting at 0-4, then when there's a team, like, not that the season would be over, because it's obviously it's a longer season, because now instead of 16 to 17 games. But if they would have come into this game at 0-4, that would be a team that would be desperate for a win. and that would be a team that would be willing to try whatever it is to win. Because when you have nothing to lose, those are some of the most dangerous teams to play. The teams that have nothing to play for. And like I said, the season is obviously still super early, so things could turn around like that. But we'll just have to see what happens. But that was the biggest thing that I took away from them. The fact that they won and they got that off their back. So hopefully they come into this game like all happy and all at ease. And maybe they don't take it too seriously, anything like that. But one thing I'm concerned about is Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah.
I know that he's an amazing runner. And despite the Colts losing 75% of their games, he's still been doing his thing, and he's still dangerous. And all it takes, like as a Ravens fan, we saw it against the Lions. All it takes, a team can be a bad team, so to speak, or have a bad record. But all it takes is you making a couple of mistakes, or the better team is making a couple of mistakes, and them just making a couple of plays, and that could get their confidence at an all-time high in that game. So one thing in this game, they're gonna have to be very, very physical with somebody who I actually wanted the Ravens to draft, probably like in the second or third round if he was there, and that was Michael Pittman Jr. Yeah, I really liked him. I really liked him a lot, man. So Ravens are gonna have to be super physical with him. And I could see Marlon Humphrey on him. Is T.Y. still out?
Yeah. T.Y. out. They put him on IR, but he's not even come back yet. He's dealing with a little bit of a neck issue. So, one thing about our wide receiver group, they're very physical, but we don't have that Hollywood Brown type of receiver. We don't have a guy who you're scared to death on a deep threat. We don't have a gadget guy like a Tyreek Hill who can just take the ball and just turn it upfield. So we're relying on concepts. We're relying on scheme to get our guys open. And that scares me against the Ravens, honestly, because they're so physical. And, you mentioned Humphreys earlier, man. I mean, that's a whole different type of football game. When you got to go against an elite guy, Michael Pittman Jr., to this point in his career, that's his only knock. He's not been able to really beat those elite guys. He's had a little bit of an issue just because he struggles to get a little bit of separation. He needs those 50-50 balls, and those elite technique guys always find a way to get a hand in there and knock things back on them. Question for you. What do you like about the Ravens, and what do you not like about the Ravens right now at this point in the season?
One thing that I really like about the Ravens is the fact that if you stop the run, that they can still pass, and they can pass effectively, they can pass efficiently, and they can do an excellent job of moving that ball through the air. Over the past couple of years, it's been a struggle for the Ravens. A lot of times, if you stop their run, if they become one-dimensional, so to speak, they have really struggled to continue to get different receivers involved, continue to get different receivers open, and continue. They've struggled to make plays down the field. But now, like we talked about a bit earlier, the Lions and the Broncos, they stopped the Ravens from running, but the Ravens were still able to air it out. So that's one thing I really like about them. Something that I don't like about them right now is that, and this is why this game is still a dangerous game, again, with Jonathan Taylor too, is because they can struggle tackling sometimes. And it's been a struggle like all season long. I know, especially with Patrick Queen, an inside linebacker. It's his second year. And he's very smart. He dissects plays well. He reads plays well, but he's just struggled a bit with the tackling, with just wrapping up. Sometimes he'll go for an arm tackle. Sometimes he'll just go for a hit, and guys will just slip away. Sometimes he'll just get pushed back. He'll wrap up somebody, but he'll get pushed back. So the tackling it really has to improve. So that's the thing that I'm not liking right now from the Ravens.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, just interested in your perspective. Are you happy about that Mark Andrews contract that he signed?
I am. One thing that a lot of us Ravens fans, just with Mark Andrews, he does have some drops. He has some drops. It happens. But the thing with us, we know he makes so many plays. Him and Lamar Jackson obviously have a great connection, and he makes more plays than he misses. But our biggest sort of gripe with Mark Andrews was in the big games, like, hey, you can't disappear anymore. You got to show up, got to come through. And so far he's done that. I mean, the Raiders game, he did have a big drop in overtime, and then the very next play, our running back and our right tackle both missed the block, and Lamar Jackson got hit and he fumbled the ball, and then the Raiders, well, you know the rest of the story. But anyway, so those game-changing plays where he makes a game-changing drop or he just doesn't show up, that's the thing that we just we're hoping that this money, it makes that go away. It makes him disappearing in big games go away, and it makes the big drops go away. So we'll see how he does throughout the rest of the season. This first, well, not even first quarter of the season, but this first 4 games of the season, he's been pretty good so far. He has had a couple of drops, but again, he's made more plays than he's missed. So we're cool with the contract, and we knew it was coming. It wasn't a surprise that it happened. We knew he was getting locked up. So it was nice to see. Now I got a question for you.
Okay.
I mean, I know what your answer is gonna be. How do you feel about the Darius Leonard contract?
Well, that's a sore subject, by the way, right at this point right now. I don't have a big problem with it just because we're a small market team and we have a hard time acquiring real talented football players. To be honest with you, Darius has not had a great year this year. He does have a couple of turnovers, but he's just been hurt, man. I mean, he got an interception 2 weeks ago, and my man looked like he had a piano on his back. I mean, that boy, he could not run. I mean, he is just gutting it out. And it's the thing, I love to hear your opinion on this. We all want our superstar players to play hurt, superheroes, go out there and play under any circumstances. Well, then when they go out there and play hurt, then we want to crucify them when they don't play good football or the same quality of football. As fans, we stop being human beings for a minute and forget that these people are just, they're freak athletes, but there's limitations to everything. Right. And I think Darius Leonard, you'll notice when you watch this game, he is not like around here we call him the maniac. Like that is not who we've seen so far from Darius Leonard. He's just a guy on the field, honest to God, trying to help his football team win football games and playing at about 60%, if I had to guess. I mean, he's really, really limited as far as his mobility sideline to sideline, which is going to be bad for us this year because that last year when we played the Ravens, we played a really good first half against the Ravens. And one of the reasons was Darius Leonard's ability to cover sideline to sideline. And that's going to be a little bit of an issue, man. So, yeah, I mean, I don't have a problem with the contract. It's a lot of money to pay a linebacker. But in our defense, we've got what we call hot spots. So, defensive end, linebacker, 3 tech where DeForest Buckner plays. You've got to have that plus a nickel. You've got to have those positions lined up to be pretty good football players. So we'll see. I mean, he's early on in this. I mean, he just inked this deal. Hopefully we can get him to a point where we can win some games and maybe sit him out and give him a couple weeks rest as far as that goes.
See, and with what you were saying with how you feel like he's playing at 60%, I'm sure 2 situations make him feel like there's a lot of pressure on him. One of them being the contract, because you want to show the fans, you want to show the organization, you want to show the NFL like, hey, I am one of the best linebackers in the league, and this is why they paid me, because I am one of the best, and I'm going to show you why I'm one of the best. So with that contract, even though you may be hurt, you may not be 100%, you may want to still push yourself to go just to really try to prove yourself or continue to prove yourself, and prove your worth and prove that the team made the right decision with signing this long-term deal. Now, another thing too, with the Colts record, that could put even more pressure on them, because it's like, oh man, we are 1-3 right now. And we've been struggling. It's been tough. So I got to do everything that I got to do to make sure that I put in my piece of the pie to try to help us get back on track again. Yep. So that could add even more pressure. And I do really appreciate what you said about these players, these superstars, them still being humans at the end of the day. And like you said, there is a limitation on what they can do. It's a limitation on their ability. It's just a limitation on them. So a lot of times, the best way that you can help your team if you're hurt is by just being on the sidelines. Because sometimes if you're out there and you're hurting, you're in so much pain, and you can't be 100%, and I mean, enough times a lot of football players, they're never 100% because it is a very physical sport. Sure. But if you can be at least like 90 or high 80, okay, cool. But if you're lower than that, then you may end up being out there and trying to help your team, but you could end up hurting them even more.
100%, man. I couldn't agree more. And he may get to a point where he has to, sit out for a week or two, and I fully support that, man. I mean, the dude's a great human being. He's a great football player. When he's 100% healthy, he's just a difference maker. But right now, he's about just a hair above average at this point. That's just being honest. And I got nothing but love for the Maniac. 53 is one of my favorite players. Every person in my house has got a Darius Leonard jersey. So, I mean, it's just that way. Let me ask you this question. We're getting ready to get off here in just 5 or 10 minutes. Who's your best player that's not named Lamar Jackson?
Oh, because that's exactly who I was going to first. When I heard you say who's your best player. Not named Lamar Jackson. Ooh.
Who do you count on, man? When the game's on the line, and you gotta have it. I don't care. It can be defense, offense. You gotta have it, man. You gotta have somebody that goes out there and just does it. It don't even have to be a main player. It can be anybody. But who are you counting on?
On defense, I would say Marlon Humphrey, because they give him a lot of assignments, and they give him the toughest assignments. He goes against the best wide receiver, tight end on the opposite team, does it week in, week out. On offense, besides Lamar Jackson, I'm going to have to go to somebody who I actually want to ask you a question about, and that's Sammy Watkins. And I would say Sammy Watkins because while he hasn't put up all the crazy numbers, anything like that, he has made some very veteran plays, like especially last week or 2 weeks ago against the Lions, where it was 4th and 19. If they don't convert, game is over. So on 4th and 19, the way he was able to find that soft spot in the zone coverage and catch the ball, because that's one thing. Like you can find a soft spot, but if you drop it, it's game over. So with that pressure being there, Sammy Watkins, he still made the play, and he's impacted this team like so much because he's opened it up for Hollywood a lot. Now, what I wanted to ask you about, because this offseason was a crazy offseason, especially in the wide receiver department for the Ravens and for the Colts, because we are intertwined. Because the Ravens, originally they had Sammy Watkins in for a visit, and then he left. He left without a deal. And then Sammy Watkins, he visited the Colts. But this was around the time when T.Y. Hilton, he was debating on whether he was going to go to the Colts. And then the Ravens, they tried to sign T.Y. Hilton. Yeah. T.Y. even said, man, I was this close to signing with the Ravens.
Yeah.
Do you feel that, how do you feel about how everything went down? I know T.Y., he's been with the Colts for a minute now, and I know y'all got a lot of love for T.Y. But how do you feel about how everything went down at the wide receiver position? And do you wish it would have went a bit differently?
Yeah, that's a great question. At the time, I'm not a Sammy Watkins fan. Like his body hasn't held up, and I've always felt like he just kind of underwhelmed a little bit. At the time, I was thinking, no, man, I'll pass on Sammy Watkins. I'm good. But I will say, as far as sticking with Sammy Watkins, I've watched the Ravens, a fair share of plays that they've played this season, and he's really seemed like a veteran wide receiver this year. Like, I don't know if I've ever thought of Sammy Watkins in that role. You know what I mean? It's always just been this player who was drafted so high in the first round and had all this potential and just never could put it together. But he seems like he's found his place in Baltimore. Like they found some way, and you guys have a great offensive coordinator, man. I mean, maybe that's just a testament to the team that you have and the philosophy and the way that you build players up. But at the time, no, I wanted to go the way it went. I know T.Y.'s been broken down as far as health. I thought T.Y. had a little bit more gas in the tank, but he's a small body receiver, man. I mean, body has been wearing down in the last 2 or 3 years. But no, I wasn't big on Watkins. But he's been impressive. I mean, especially like you mentioned that, I think it was 4th and 19 or 3rd and 19. If he doesn't catch that ball, I mean, we're talking about a whole different record. We're talking about a whole different situation. I mean, we talking about all kinds of records, because I guess he catches that ball and the field goal gets kicked, you know what I mean? And all that good stuff. So yeah, man, it was quite crazy how that intertwined. And actually, I turned down more money from the Ravens to stay with the Colts, which is
right.
You don't see that happening every day, man. You know what I mean? Good for him. I don't know if me and my family would do the same thing, but good for him. You know,
yeah. And I know that this offseason, like we got turned down a lot. Juju Smith-Schuster, he turned down more money from the Ravens to go to stay with the Steelers. T.Y. Hilton, he turned down more money. So we were dealing with a lot of denial, or getting denied, I mean. But just like you, I wasn't really high on Sammy Watkins either. I felt like he could be a good fit because he had his best year under Greg Roman, and Greg Roman is our offensive coordinator now. And with some of the wide receiver coaches we hired, he's worked with them in the past as well. One of them is his personal wide receiver coach, Keith Williams is, I believe. So I know it could be a good fit, but still with Sammy, same concerns. His injury history. And yeah, he hadn't like really been anything special, especially because I think he was a number 4 overall pick when he got drafted. I think he was somewhere super high. But I just so when they signed him, because they had him in for a visit, didn't sign him. They tried to sign Juju, didn't happen. They checked in on Kenny Golladay, obviously didn't happen. They tried with Ty, didn't happen. And I remember we even did videos about it with when the Colts, when they had Sammy Watkins in for a visit. I had said it in a video because it's just one of those things you just felt like you saw it coming. I was like, they're just using Sammy Watkins, man. Yeah. They're just using him just to get Ty back because Ty been on the fence. What am I gonna do? Am I gonna come back? Am I gonna go somewhere else?
100%.
All they're doing is just using Sammy Watkins to put that pressure on Ty, to show the T.Y. Hilton like, hey, we're bringing this guy in. We're ready to move on without you, whether you're coming with us or not. So that puts that pressure on him, his agent, his people, and then boom, it happened like a day later. T.Y. Hilton ended up re-signing with the Colts. So it just, but yeah, it's worked out so far, and I have been pleasantly surprised with Sammy Watkins. Pleasantly surprised with him. And one thing that I was worried about with Sammy Watkins with the Ravens, I was scared that I was hoping that the Ravens wouldn't do it. I was hoping that they wouldn't put all their eggs into one basket. Meaning I was hoping that he wouldn't be the only wide receiver that they would sign or the only wide receiver that they would rely on this season, because I just felt like his body could not be trusted. So obviously they drafted Rashad Bateman and Tylan Wallace, and Hollywood is still there, of course. And Duvernay and Prochet, they've been showing up as well. So our biggest thing this year with the wide receivers has been with the coaching staff, with adding Keith Martin and T. Martin and Keith Williams, and those are wide receiver coaches and passing game coordinators, and they have made such a big difference to this team. So that they've been one of the biggest reasons for the improvements in the passing game.
How excited do you see Rashad Bateman get on the field? I mean, that was a guy like, I was thinking when they drafted him, I was like, how do the Ravens always end up with players like that? Like you feel like the Steelers, the Ravens, and the Patriots they just wake up and people just fall in their lap. I'm like, how do they might have ended up getting one of the best wide receivers in this whole class, and he's just right there. You got to be excited about Bateman on the field.
Yeah, for sure. That I'm not a guy who watches much college football at all. But when I did first start watching film on some of the top wide receivers that were coming out in the draft, he was the very first person that I watched, and I was like, man, I love this guy, because this guy, his route running is great. He catches the ball with his hands. He's not afraid. He doesn't play scared. He got very, very good concentration, and he has some underrated speed too. So when the Ravens drafted him, man, I just went crazy, man. But with him, I know a concern before this season started was the use of our wide receivers. How would they be used? Would they be used consistently? Would they be able to make plays? But now we've been seeing that they've been being used in a good way. They've been making plays, and they've been getting different guys involved. So with Rashad Bateman, he is expected to play in this game. It's not official yet. He has to be added to the active roster, but I think that could happen probably by this week. I think it'll happen by Friday at the latest, but we'll see what happens. But I know that he's not going to be thrown all the way into the fire from jump. It's going to be something where he's eased in But I am excited to see him make some plays, man. I mean, I'm excited to see him on the field. Just excited to see him when he gets that first catch. Not even just the first catch, but that first catch, and then he gets that yak after it. I'm just excited to see how that goes in his first big play. Because we envisioned some different scenarios and different lineups and different matchup problems with all of our wide receivers, including Rashad Bateman and Miles Boykin. But both of those two, they've been on injury reserve for the first couple of weeks of the season. But now that they're getting ready to come back, it's just exciting as a Ravens fan that we actually have a legitimate passing game to accompany the running game, and something where it's almost like you got to pick your poison. And as a Ravens fan, that was just it's been special. And again, like I said earlier, it's what's made it even more special is the fact that there's so many guys that are out right now, so many guys that are hurt, but the Ravens are still able to move the ball through the air. Got some improvements to make on the ground, but they can move the ball through the air, and we have a legitimate passing game. So that's a good thing.
Well, let's hope they hold off a week, man, on bringing getting there going off. But hey, man, we always do this every single week. We're gonna do predictions. Go out a score. I mean, I'm pretty sure what side of the fence you're gonna be on. But give me the prediction, man. Don't hold nothing back. Not just for the show. If you think they're gonna slaughter the Colts, then you just let me know, man.
I'll say 33-14 Ravens.
Wow.
If with the Ravens last week, it was a big step forward for them because it was their very first game this season without turning the ball over. Because in every single game up to the Broncos game, they turned the ball over. But against the Broncos, they didn't turn the ball over. And coincidentally, they got their first win by double digits. And every single game when they turn the ball over, they just let the teams just hang around to where we had 3 like super stressful, crazy games in the first 3 weeks of the season. But last week was the first week that we were able to watch the game and just really be at ease for the most part because the Ravens took care of business and they didn't give the ball to the Broncos. So if they can do that against the Colts, and the Colts, of course, are going to bring their own challenges too. Because our offensive line is going to have to do a phenomenal job against DeForest Buckner. And shout out to the Colts for being very aggressive last year. We're giving up, what was that, a first-round pick to get DeForest Buckner from the 49ers, I think? Yeah, man. I always appreciate when GMs just aren't afraid. They're not afraid.
Yeah.
Because, again, scared money don't make no money, man. So they didn't play scared with that trade. Because they could have been like, which a lot of teams are like, no, that's our first round pick. We got to keep our first round pick and we don't want to give it away. And no, they said, no, we know somebody who can play in this league and they can help us right here, right now. So come bring them on. So yeah, offensive line, they got to have a better game than what they've been having because the offensive line has been struggling. But yeah, that'll be my score prediction. As long as Ravens don't make any mistakes, they play a clean game. I think that's how it should go.
You heard it here first, right here. Ingraven predicting that just an ass whipping right here for the Ravens against the Colts. I'm gonna do something I haven't done all year long, and I'm actually not gonna pick my team to win this football game, which I just feel sick even murmuring those words out of my mouth. But I just think that we're injured. We're playing a really good football team. Lamar Jackson. I don't know, something about that guy, man, when he plays in prime time, it's just different. You know, I mean, he moves even faster. It's hard to believe he can be any faster than he already is. I think it'll be a little bit closer than you predicted, but I'm going to go 27-20 Ravens. It's going to be a rough game, man. I mean, it really is for the Colts. I hope I'm wrong, but we'll see. Before we hop off here, man, I just want to take a quick second to thank you for jumping on, man. I know you're busy. You're doing videos all the time. You're doing content. Give you a chance to just let everybody know where they can find you at. I know you're on Twitter. I know you're on YouTube, but just give you the floor and let everybody know where they can find you.
And I appreciate you having me on. Thank you for that. My YouTube channel, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, everything is IngravenVids. This team Keep It Clean is videos every single day. I had a podcast that I did called the Team Keep It Clean podcast, but I took a little break from it, but I'm getting ready to start that back up again. And that we talk about football a little bit on there, but that's just more about life. But As far as football content, the channel is IngravenVids. Like I said, videos literally every single day. During the season, during the off season, if there's football games on, if there's not football games on, there will be content literally every single day. So if you want to come through, you're more than welcome. And I'm a Ravens fan, and it's primarily a Ravens channel, but everybody is welcome. Because what Team Keep It Clean is about, it's just about showing respect to everybody, showing love to everybody, no matter what team they're a fan of, and just creating an atmosphere and an environment where we could just talk football respectfully. We'll talk trash, just all in fun, never gets personal, anything like that. Sure. But like I said, everybody is more than welcome.
Absolutely, man. Thanks so much for coming on. Like we always tell everybody on the No Horsing Around family, like, rate, review, subscribe, tap in, join the family, man. We're just asking everybody to be a part of this Colts community. Thank you so much again, brother, for coming on. Look forward to watching that Monday Night Football game, and we'll see how it happens, and we'll see you along the way, man. Take care now.
Oh yeah, appreciate it.
Yes, sir.